It's 7 o'clock in Seattle. This is the final 2 hours, so check on your auction items and be sure to raise your paddle for $100 or more to get your 1-month free subscription to audiobook service Libro.fm. As a writer and a Hugo House teacher, I want to personally say thank you for supporting Hugo House. The time that I spend each week teaching Write Time, the Youth Writing Circle, or Zooming with my year-long writing students has been an incredibly important source of connection and stability for me in the past months. My students say the same thing. Hugo House supports so many writers in so many ways, and we all thank you for your help. And now, to introduce our keynote speaker for Eat, Read, Hugo 2020, I turn the camera over to Garth Stein.
Good evening. Charles Johnson is a novelist, essayist, literary scholar, philosopher, cartoonist, screenwriter, and professor emeritus at the University of Washington. He's also a really good guy, and he was signed up to do our keynote speech this year down in Sodo, and since that got canceled, he's agreed to do a brief Q&A with me, which I'm going to share with you now. I have to say we had some technical difficulties, and so the images of Charles that you'll see are ones taken from his past rather than him speaking. You'll just hear his voice, and of course, you'll be able to see me. Thank you very much to Dr. Johnson for participating in this, and thank you very much, supporters of Hugo House. We really appreciate this, and please enjoy.
I'm learning something every day at 72 years old. So, you know, an old dog can learn new tricks.
Pretty soon you're going to be old enough to run for president.
I don't think I will ever do that in this lifetime. It is a contact sport, and I don't think I could last too long on the football field.
Well, what would it be like, though? I mean, they tried it in Czech Republic, right? Václav Havel, the poet, the playwright. Right? What would it be like if the United States had a poet or a philosopher as president? What do you think that would look like?
You know why I don't think that could happen? And I'll tell you why. I think that America has, for a very long time, been anti-intellectual and distrustful of intellectuals. You know, those pointy-headed intellectuals that Spiro Agnew talked about. When George Bush was running, the question came up, oh, is he the kind of guy I can sit down in a bar and have a beer with? You know, there's that, ever since Jefferson, there's been that common man priority, you know, the common man touch, as opposed to the elite, effete Europeans, right, in Jefferson's time. So this goes back a long, long way. No, I don't know if you could do it here. It's a more European thing.
Of course, poetics is, of course, one of the great tomes of the Western canon. Did he write a volume on comedy and it was lost to history?
I wrote a story about that actually called Idols of the Cave, and in my collection, Nighthawks, where soldiers in Afghanistan discover it. Oh, wow, yes. That book. I've seen that book. They discovered the manuscript, but it's been translated into Arabic because that's what happened after the fall of the Roman Empire. So much history was, everything was lost during the Dark Ages. People were not literate, but the Muslims translated Aristotle and really responded critically to him. And then when the time was right, those works were translated back into the West, which made it possible for Thomas Aquinas to use Aristotelian logic for his Summa Theologica.
You started as a cartoonist, really, and then, of course, you do many disciplines, but surely fiction is one of them.
Yeah.
What is that? How do you explain the pathways in your brain to someone like me?
Well, I mean, you know, it's all coming from the same source, which is the love of art. It doesn't matter. I started publishing in '65 when I was 17 years old. My first 3 stories in my high school newspaper, they've been in an anthology called First Words. They're reprinted there with first words by, you know, other writers in America. But for me, I was passionately devoted to drawing for 7 years, but I love to read, obviously, literature too, novels and stories, because that fed my imagination as a political cartoonist, as a panel cartoonist, right? All of these arts, people don't realize that they overlap and blend together. So, you know, it's like you might wake up one day and want to do a sonnet. The next day you might wake up and say, you know, I've got some ideas about the mind-body problem. Let me do an essay. Or you make up another day and say, you know, I got a novel. Let me get back to that novel I've been working on for 2 or 3 years, right? So it's people put you in categories, unfortunately. Oh, he's a novelist. That's what he does. Or he's a poet. No, it's not like that. The creative spirit is global, I think, within a human life.
No, I think that's really great. We do, and in a sense, we sort of allow ourselves to be corralled, right? I mean, that it's sort of this passive aggressive nature that we have with ourselves. It's like, oh, okay, you're right. I am this, therefore I'll go stand over here.
Yes.
As opposed to saying, no, I'm going to define myself, and I'll tell you what I'm going to be today.
Exactly. Yeah, what I'm doing today. You see, that's why I think it's important, and this is for the Hugo House audience, not to lock yourself into the idea of being a writer. You get up and you create. Sometimes it's with words, maybe. Sometimes it's with images, maybe, that you draw. Don't lock yourself into this idea, oh, this is what a writer does. That's what I must do. That's BS. That'll shut you down. You know, somebody will say, well, you got an award for your last novel. You're a novelist. You know, you just write novels from now on. No, sorry, it doesn't work that way. I might have a short story that I want to do, or an essay that I want to do. The whole thing is about being free, and that's what the creative process allows you to be. I'll show you a book. I'm going to hold it up. Can you see this?
I can see that. John Gardner on Writers and Writing.
Yep. I wrote the introduction. This is 1994. This is a book that was published posthumously after John passed away, because he passed away in 1982. These are his writings about writing and about writers. Well, in my introduction, I point out that in 1973, when I first started working with Gardner, I interviewed him for a little newspaper in Southern Illinois. I was a young journalist then. And he made a quote in 73 that it might be interesting to talk about now. I'm going to read it for you. I think a certain kind of America is doomed, though something greater may be coming. The novelist, and only the novelist, thrives on breakdown, because that's the moment when you can analyze the beauty of the values that are falling and rising. The end of a great civilization, said Gardner, is always a great moment for fiction. When the old England at the end of the 19th century fell, along came Dickens. When Russia fell apart, along came Tolstoy. One looks forward to the fall of great civilization because it gives us great art.
That's quite brilliant, actually.
And that was 1973,
yeah.
right? So we've been falling apart for a long time.
Yeah. But no, that is interesting that the, and that's true, making sense out of the cacophony, the noise that's happening right now will ultimately fall to, the poets in whatever medium, right?
That's right. No, that's absolutely true. So, we were corresponding earlier in email about, well, what shall we talk about during this session? And you were thinking about a lot of stuff related to COVID-19, right? To the virus. There are stories right now being generated every minute around the globe because of the upending of our lives because of this virus. We're going to see more novels, more poems, more short stories, more essays, more analysis, more historical, critiques coming out of this particular moment. So yeah, I think we should be open to that. I don't write a novel just to write a novel. I write a novel as if it's the last thing I'm ever going to do. And when I go to put it in the mail at the PO, just into my agent, I might get hit by a car. And that's it. Well, my kids will look at that when it comes out and they'll say, oh, that's Dad's last will and testament in language. It's his best thought, his best feeling. This is what he had to say. So when I wrote my 7th novel, I spent 9 months. Then I realized how important this is. My 2nd novel published, which was number 8, called Oxford Tale, I spent 5 years on. And then Middle Passage, 6 years on. And then Dreamer, 7 years on. Because I realized what's at stake with what we're doing here. It really matters.
Excited at Hugo House to be trying this online gala. You were going to be the keynote for our big fancy dinner that we were going to have down in Sodo, and it was canceled because of the virus and all. But it's been a real pleasure to be able to spend some time hearing your thoughts. Do you have any ideas, any wisdom you might leave us with? No pressure, by the way.
Wisdom that I would leave us with. That's a, gosh, hey, yeah, I do. Every day, be thankful for the gift of life. Because that's also, the gift of life is an opportunity to create, which is giving a gift to others through your work.
I like it a lot. And write every book as if it were your last, I think, huh?
I really do. Yeah, I feel that deeply.